So, have you ever really stopped to think about what makes a university degree, well, valuable? We kind of just assume the education is top-notch, right? But how is that quality actually guaranteed? Today, we're going to dig into two totally different philosophies for making sure academic standards are up to snuff.
I mean, seriously, think about it. We put so much trust in the professionals that come out of universities. Our health, our buildings, our technology, it all depends on them. So that brings up a huge question. Who's making sure the universities themselves are meeting the right standards? Who checks the checkers?
Well, believe it or not, there's a whole system for this exact thing, and it's called quality assurance. And no, this isn't just about handing out A's and B's. It's a really formal process designed to uphold the quality and standards of education across the board. And honestly, it's a huge deal for higher ed systems all over the world. Okay, so at the very heart of this system, you've got something called a Quality Assurance Agency, or a QAA for short. The source material we're looking at today says these organizations play a pivotal role, and that's a perfect way to put it. Think of them as the official guardians of a country's educational quality.
So what do these agencies do all day? Well, their job basically boils down to three main things. First, they supervise the quality standards that are already out there. Then, they go in and evaluate the universities and colleges to make sure they're actually meeting those standards. And finally, their big goal is to constantly improve the whole system. So it's this cycle, right? Oversight, assessment, and then making things even better.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Not every country does this the same way, not even close. So let's kick things off by looking at South Korea, a country that's famous for its super rigorous education system. How do they handle quality assurance?
All right, in South Korea, the main player is the Korean Council for University Education, or KCUE. This is the government body with a really important job, making sure the country's universities, which are already pretty prestigious, stay at that high level.
And the way the KCUE operates is pretty specific. See, they focus on what's already going on inside the universities. Their job is to dive in and examine the quality frameworks that the schools themselves have set up. They analyze the protocols, they review the teaching methods. They're basically auditors of the university's own quality control. So they're putting a lot of trust in the institutions to do their own thing while just making sure they hit a certain standard.
Okay, now let's completely switch gears and head over to Malaysia. Their approach is a fascinating contrast. It's a totally different road to get to that same goal of educational excellence.
So in Malaysia, the big name you need to know is the Malaysian Qualification Agency, or MQA. And just like its South Korean counterpart, the MQA is the big boss when it comes to educational quality. But, and this is a big but, it operates on a fundamentally different philosophy.
Instead of looking at the systems already inside the universities, the MQA's job is basically to set the rules of the game for everyone, from the outside in. They're the ones who define the national standards for all higher education. They set clear, specific benchmarks for what, say, a bachelor's degree should actually mean, and they scrutinize the quality requirements that every single institution has to follow. It's a much more top-down way of doing things, and it's all about consistency across the entire country.
Okay, so we've met our two main players, South Korea's KCUE and Malaysia's MQA. Now let's put them side by side. This is where you can really see the fundamental differences in how they tackle the exact same problem. And here it is, the core philosophical split. On one hand, you have South Korea. Their approach is supervisory. They evaluate the systems that universities create for themselves. This is great because it can really encourage schools to be independent and come up with new, innovative ideas. On the other hand, you have Malaysia. Their approach is more prescriptive. They're the ones defining the national standards that all universities have to build their systems to meet. This ensures that no matter where you go, there's a clear, uniform baseline for quality.
Let's break this down even more. When you look at their primary role, South Korea is all about supervision and evaluation, while Malaysia is about setting those benchmarks. And that changes how they do their jobs, right? Their methodology. The KCUE analyzes internal protocols, while the MQA is scrutinizing whether schools are complying with their external requirements. And this all leads to different end goals. South Korea is trying to improve the quality that's already there, while Malaysia's objective is to define what those national standards should be in the first place.
Okay, I know this might all sound a little academic, a little inside baseball, but the way a country guarantees the quality of its education has huge real-world consequences. We're not just talking about university rankings here. We're talking about a nation's entire future.
You can actually see a really clear path from this quality assurance stuff all the way to national development.
It all starts with having a strong agency, like the KCUE or the MQA. That agency works to improve standards, which in turn fosters a really high-quality education system. And what's the result of that? You get a highly skilled population that can drive the country's growth. Education is, truly, the cornerstone of all of it.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The authors of the article we're drawing from put it perfectly. They say that the work of these quality assurance agencies will significantly contribute to advancing quality and standards in accordance with national development strategies. I mean, that directly connects the piece of paper you get when you graduate to the economic and social health of an entire nation.
And that really brings us to our final thought for today. Whether a country uses a supervisory approach like South Korea or a standard-setting one like Malaysia, making sure education is high quality is just vital. So it's worth asking yourself, how does your country make sure its degrees are valuable and respected on the world stage? It's a question that really affects every single one of us. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.